Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. My name is Skura, also known as Islands in Front, and today we'll be discussing Fae in numbers just before Paupergeddon Lecco. Now, last time I showed you my list I'm going to play, and I'm still going to play it card for card. And I've got a guide released on it as well, which you can find in the description here, but also in the description of this video. I already have a ton of people signed up for that, and I highly suggest you check it out. It's actually 26 matchups now because I added Altetron and Mono Black Sacrifice among a couple others. So, yeah, this is still perfectly up to date. But today, I will take a look at this. So, Fae in numbers, video released by Blinksy. Of course, the link is going to be down below. Shout out to him for compiling this data. And yeah, let's take a look at Fae's. Fae on the left is what's going on in the last quarter. And the previous one, again, is previous. I didn't play Fae back then. Let's focus on this one. So, first of all, Rakdos, Madness, and Turbofog, not very popular decks, but you do see them from time to time. Very favored, as I would expect. Mono Blue Terra used to be the premier blue deck of the format. Now it's premier-ish, but it's really nice to have such a good matchup against it, and it does confirm my personal experience. The main reason, which is a bit more deeper there in the guide, but in short, the first turn they spend cantripping, mental noting, and thought scouring, while we are already putting things on board. And the moment they are set up and ready to play the game, actually, we already have 2 or 3 creatures, including a ninja, going, right? And from that position, even though they drop their 5/5s, we can take a couple of hits, chump here or there, attack in the air, and also they can't really attack full in, because then we attack back full in, draw cards with the ninjas to draw even more creatures that we can chump with, actually getting a hand on board and on damage. Dredge and Cycle Storm, a couple of other, tier 2 pretty popular strategies. It's nice to have positive win rates against those as well. Why we want to aim at tier 1 decks. Having those tier 2 decks covered is great. Now, the real deal, the real meat and potatoes. Giant Brute Scale and Golgari Brute Scale at 60 and 56% respectively. This is arguably the reason to play Mono Blue Fae. Now, we will discuss Fae's position after bans if they so happen, and there will be definitely a longer piece on my Metafy, alongside with a video like this. But for now, this is the reason. Spell Status Sprite cannot be duressed, counters Glee, and basically all their interaction, which is the aforementioned duress and also Tamiyo's safekeeping, they don't do anything against it. Now, it's got a bit worse because they do play Shambling Ghast and Chrysalis in the Giant version. And despite that, we're still at high 50s, 60% win rate. So that's splendid. That's a great position to enter Paupergeddon with. Now, it's not a free matchup, so don't think of it as such, right? They still sideboard, 4 Drown in Sorrow, or like Breath Weapons, or Pyroblasts, or Snuff Outs. So it's not an easy win, but it's definitely highly favored to begin with. We're also positive against Hexproof, which is great, and if you just keep a couple of key rules in mind, is going to be good. And Dimir Terra, another Terra variant, also with a positive record. That all matches my experience. Now, let's get to the other stuff, because we've seen Brute Scale, but where is the other two pillars of the format, right? Affinity and Kuldotha. Well, Gardens, we don't really mind Gardens. Grixis Affinity at 45%. I am doubtful that's the case, and if you read my guide, I don't remember my exact words on that, but I think I called it a slightly favorable matchup. And I do stand by that. Actually, let me check. Yeah, I can actually call it favored. So I do, and it's been favored from my experience, because their mana is very slow, and their best thing is turn 2 Familiar, and recurring Familiars on turn 7+. But like, if you know that's the case, you can play around these things, right? You should play the game so as you don't just shake the hand to a Familiar. You shouldn't side out all the Brine Barrows, for example, to have a proper trade there. You're much cleaner on mana. You're insanely efficient with the annuls. So, like, yeah, if the game comes down to turn 17, recycling Familiars is going to be bad. But what if it doesn't come down to that, right? So I wouldn't say it's 60, but I would definitely put it in the 53, 55 range, personally, from my experience. So I think that's weird, especially as it used to be much higher. Now, the sample was much smaller because, again, the resurgence of Familia has been really felt, but I've had hard to believe it's 45%. Now, I don't expect that much Grixis affinity, but I do expect a ton of Red Kuldotha, which is an even bigger sample because we go from like 100 matches to 200 matches, and the win rate is even smaller. It's barely 45%. And that's even more surprising because I think Kuldotha is even more favored than Grixis Affinity. And I've played against Kuldotha so many times. And I've played gauntlets against friends where one side is Familiar, is Fae, and the other is Kuldotha. At some points, I find it hard to imagine losing. Like, what draw could they have for me to lose? And I'm personally like, I don't know, 12-1 against Kuldotha. And I keep trimming cards against it. Like you'll see in the list I put here, there are 3 Brine Barrows main deck, and there is a 4th in the sideboard and 4 blasts. There are no cogworks. There aren't 6 blasts, you know? So, and I keep trimming cards against it because I think I can. I can afford to trim cards against this matchup because I do so well. And there I see 45%. So personally, I believe it's a very skill-dependent matchup on both sides. So I know how the red player paces their threats, bait out mono blue into mass removal, kill or not kill the Fae, and play or not play into spell starter. But also on the Fae side, whether they get baited into mass removal, how they play spell starter into the positions the opponent may or may not have set you up for. How do you ninja? How do you trade resources? Whether you open yourself up to them, Kuldothing you. So, and also I've got like numerous videos on the matchup. So if you go to my channel there are like at least 2 video replays to see how I play this matchup. So I think it's baffling. It's 45, personally. Now, Dimir Fae, I could imagine 42. 42 is really low. I would go for like 40, maybe 6 or 7. But if this, I would agree, is unfavored. Jund Wildfire, 40%. No way. No way it's 40%. I think I've lost to it once. And again, it's not easy, but it's perfectly winnable. Maybe I would, if you want to say it's unfavored, maybe in the 45 range. Definitely not 38 range. Dimir Control, I'm not sure what that is. Gruel Drazi, 31. That I can agree with. Is in Control and White Weenie, 11-1 for them, or rather 11-1. Sure, or 10-1. I can see that, but like nobody's worried about White Weenie. So my conclusion is not that that Fae is 60% across the board, but I just think that the Grixis and Kuldotha, these key ones, but also a bit Jund Wildfire, but these 2 especially, are definitely under percentaged, I would say. And I would genuinely give 10 percentage points up for Fae, which is, I think, one of the conclusions I would give. Like, if you play this deck, your win rate can genuinely fluctuate by 5 to 15 percentage points on how well you play. Now, it does. Now, naturally, every deck's win rate fluctuates on the level of the player. But I think in Fae, it's particularly like rewarding if you play really well, and particularly punishing if you don't. So, yeah, this is how I see it. So now you can see that from my perspective, I would see it favored against Brutescale, favored against Kuldotha, and favored against Affinity. Wow, S tier deck. Yeah, that's why I play it, by the way. That's exactly why I play. That's exactly why I will take it to Geddon. That's exactly why and then how I'll try to top 8 the Geddon again. Does it not have bad matchups? Of course it does. Because if the chart was longer, like a lot of other decks would be down there. If you added, there's White Weenie. If you added Elves, awful. Walls, awful. Core Skyfisher like decks with red or black or Mardu, also awful. But it doesn't really matter because the top of the game, right, the very top tier 1 decks and numerous tier 2 decks, including like tier 1.5 like Terra, are advantaged. So I highly implore you to try Fae, whether for this Geddon or for after Geddon. You've got all the resources you need on this channel. I showed you already the guide, but also there is this channel right here when you can watch, you know, my live matches against Jund Wildfire that I said that we saw it's 38%. Against Gruul, Dredge, Boggles, Double Kuldotha. Against Mono Blue Terra, which shows the play partners I told you about. But also has, you know, full streams, like 2 hours of me playing, 2 hours of me playing it again with an FAQ right after Geddon. But also my Polish Nationals, final game 3 where I became the Polish national champion by playing Fae yet again. So, I will see you all at Geddon, hopefully. Feel free to come up, say hello, show me your deck. I'll have some Sharpies so I can sign your spell status or Harrier's Trixes. And yeah, I hope I'll see you there, and I hope I'll see you after Geddon with some cool updates. And until then, thank you very much for watching. And as always, please remember to hold my hand and let's pass it in together. And I will see you next time. Cheers. Boo!